Hey, it's good to be back. It's been a long week, tiring week, busy week, but it is good to be back. I've got plenty to talk about in terms of leadership. Different things that have come up this week, different things that I've noticed in the news, and also doing the research I'm doing. As I talked about previously, there's some bits that have come up from that as well. First thing I want to go into, I just want to go straight into it, is stuff I've been seeing on the news, and it's to do with the politicians in the UK. Now, what was it? 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, there was the general election, and Labour got voted in. And a week ago, I think it was Kier Starmer, the Labour leader, said, "Tough times are ahead. Things are going to get worse before they get better." Now, here's what's interesting about that. That is a great way to manage expectations. Correct? Nothing wrong with it. Here's the thing. Would he have ever said that before they got voted in? Not a chance. Because they wouldn't have got voted in. So, as a leader, you know that people are going to vote for you and follow you if you tell them what they want to hear. If you tell the people that you are going to deliver something or you're going to make things better, people are going to want to follow you. So they understand the dynamics of the follower and leader relationship. How many people can you convince to follow you? That's it. That is how you get into a position of leadership. Now, politics is quite interesting in that yes, you can get impeached like in the US. I think Trump got impeached, correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, you can get impeached, but the point is that generally you're stuck in there for 4 years. You've got your term. Now, these people will, as I said, lie. Maybe not lie, embellish, bend the truth, whatever you want to call it, to get into power. And then once they're in, they either have to deliver or rein things back a bit and maybe come up with some excuses and say something's changed. So if something happens in the news, let's just say Russia now decide to invade, probably the stupidest thing in the world to do, but if they invaded Poland, Poland would absolutely smash Russia to bits, I think. But say they invaded Poland, the UK government could say, "Oh, now that Russia have done this, it's changed everything. We're not, we're not going to be able to deliver on the promises that we made." So I would have done that if they were being a bit more sensible. I would have waited for something to happen, because you've got 4 years. You don't need to do it after 5 weeks of being in. I probably would have waited for something to happen. That way you've got a built-in excuse. But that is what they all do. They give false promises, and then once they're in, they either change what they've said they're going to do, or they just don't deliver it, and then go, we failed. But we're in, and we're super rich now. We've made ourselves even richer. That's essentially what happens. Now, what's super interesting, like I said, is if this happened in an environment where you could get out. Say you got deserted on an island and there's 50 of you, and you proved yourself to be a great leader. Everyone voted you in, and you made promises like, "I'm going to make sure everyone gets fed. I'm going to look after everyone in a certain way. Make sure that clean toilets are made. Blah blah blah. Those are the things I'm going to concentrate on." And then you get voted in. You have to, because there's no set term, you have to deliver on what you're going to say. So in that situation, it's very different, because you might have one person that says, "My thing is to build a stronger fighting force in case we get attacked." And then the other person says, "I'm going to concentrate on farming to ensure we got more food." And then a third person might say, I'm going to concentrate on construction to make sure we've got better shelter in case the storm comes. So it all then depends. You've got to sell your idea to the people. Now, this happens a lot within leadership. And like I said, you have people that try to sell themselves to get voted in. But then what you've also got in certain situations is, let's say, for example, everyone gets deserted on that desert island, and you just have someone who just happens to be a builder, and they just do start building a shelter. And then you have someone who is an expert, say a farmer, who just starts farming and growing crops and things like that. And then you have a third person who's a soldier who starts making weapons and making sure that they're safe. Those three people generally will automatically get into leadership positions, regardless of whether they're good leaders or not. They might be horrendous leaders, but the skills that they've got, people generally will just follow them because they think, well, I want to follow that person because they make me feel safe, and this person makes me feel like I can have a house, and I'm going to follow them and take their instruction. This is where a lot of people go wrong. The soldier might be the best person at managing the situation defense-wise, and the builder might be the best person to speak to about building, but they might not be the best leaders. They might not be the person who thinks about the logically overall the big picture and what benefits the camp the most. So this is a mistake that is made in a lot of situations. What is going to benefit the group the most, and not who is the most experienced within that specific field. They're two very different things. Very, very different things. Anyway, I've been looking at that. Came up quite a lot in my research recently, to do with the perception of what a great leader is. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I just thought I'd mention it because it has been on my mind quite a lot the last few days, and the perception of the follower and how the followers generally follower stupidity, if let's just be blunt about it, ignorance, if you want to call it that, naivety, that is what usually really messes up the dynamics of the group, because they will follow the wrong person because they don't understand that a good leader is different to a good builder, for example. Or just because someone is the biggest doesn't make them the wisest. Just because someone is very good at chess doesn't make them the most intelligent. Let's call it wisest again, most logical. They might be very, very, very good at chess. They might be very, very good at maths. But that doesn't mean they can understand what is best for the group. So there is a big misunderstanding between the followers and what is going to achieve them survival, if you want to call it that. In the terms of being on an island. Anyway, moving on. Something else that I've been watching recently is the documentary, the Wrexham documentary on Disney with Rob McElhenney, or whatever his name is, and Ryan Reynolds, and the Wrexham Football Club. Now, something I've noticed very interesting about the whole documentary was the skepticism of the town before or kind of as these two came in. Was it a publicity stunt? Did they really care about the team? Now, you have to think, be logical about it. They didn't care about the team when they first bought the team. They might have grown to love the team now. Bear in mind they're both actors, so they could pretend to love the team. But I do genuinely think there is a feeling of love towards the team, and they do care about the team and the town. I do think they are invested now, whether they like it or not. Here's the thing. They are very aware that exposure makes you money. Now, this is why they said they said it in one of the episodes, that they are actively searching for players who are very active on social media, that they can integrate into the social media of Wrexham. So they want players that want to be in the spotlight, and not players who just want to play football. They don't want Roy Keanes. They want, the fame-hungry players, because the more exposure the club gets, the more money it gets. The more money it gets, the higher they can get. The higher they can get, the more exposure they can get, and it just goes round and round and round and round. And ultimately, it's about money. It is about money. Now, can they get to the club, to the Premier League? Probably. Probably they can. Where will it end? I don't know. I do not know, because what are they going to do? I think, if you remember, was it Mohamed Al Fayed bought Fulham years ago and took them to a certain point, and then they just stagnated. Then you had that billionaire owner of QPR, got to a point, and then they just kind of stagnated. If Wrexham get to the Premier League, they're probably going to stagnate in the bottom half. They're not going to be able to... The point is, when you get the draw for League 2 players and League 1 players is the fame and the exposure. When you're in the Premier League, they've all got that anyway. So you can't now draw players in to go, let's get exposure. The only draw is, realistically, Ryan Reynolds. Get to be mates with Ryan Reynolds. That's it. So there is a draw, but Premier League players don't need that, because they go into all those sort of parties anyway. The whole point of me mentioning Wrexham was about if you look at the leadership and followership of the team again. Now, if you look at what I find interesting is the team. The fans. The fans want success. They want success. But they don't... They're worried about the intentions of the owners. Now, if the owners said, we don't care about winning, we only care about promotion and growth and the club becoming as valuable as possible so we can sell it, is that a negative? Now, you could say, as a Wrexham fan, well, that's not what we want, because they don't have this. Their ideology, if you want to call it, isn't the same as ours. Their objectives aren't the same as ours. Now, they are in a roundabout way, but they're not. So their main objective might not be, we care about Wrexham because we were born here and we want Wrexham to win. But at the same time, if they want Wrexham to get to the Premier League, then ultimately you're going to have to win to get to the Premier League anyway. So, is them wanting to go to make money from the club, not like the Glazers did, not by taking dividends and bleeding the club dry, but by getting the club to that point and then selling it to someone who's got a lot more money, do you think that's a bad thing? And this is where it gets very interesting. Again, let's call it ignorance of the follower. Now, if I say, I want... Oh, man, let me think of something. Let's just say I really want to go to McDonald's. This is such a shit example, but I couldn't think of anything else. Let's just say I wanted to go to McDonald's. And my wife says she is tired, and I say, well, how about you don't cook tonight and we go out? And she says, okay. We are both getting what we want, but I'm getting my McDonald's and she's not having to cook, if that makes sense. Now, I could offer to cook instead and say, well, I'll cook tonight, but that's not what I want. So then she's only getting what she wants. She's getting not to cook, but I'm not getting my McDonald's. So if that is my objective and her objective, but we both get the same thing, we both get what we want, but they're different things, that is where a lot of followers go wrong, because the leader might not want exactly what you want, but they have to achieve what they want, they have to achieve what you want. So just because someone doesn't care about the same things exactly doesn't make them a bad leader or make them someone that you shouldn't trust or want in charge, because you're both going to get what you want at the end of the day. I hope that makes sense. But that is something I noticed about the fans, and I noticed it a lot in lots of different scenarios. I'll tell you another one is I watched the documentary on Salford FC when the Manchester United class of 92 bought the club. And what was interesting about that is I remember the fans saying, we don't really want to win. We don't really want to become a professional team because the club will have to get bigger and then it becomes a business. It's not like our little thing anymore. And it was fascinating that they didn't want success because it would feel like it wasn't just theirs anymore. And it would get too serious and too big, and it wouldn't become kind of like a family club. It would become a business. That I found fascinating, because I suppose the bigger it is, the more you lose that family feel, that intimacy. That I thought was fascinating. But anyway, I tell you another thing on this as well, is if you look at the Glazers and Manchester United, and then you say, what were they trying to achieve? Well, they were trying to achieve making as much money as possible. To them, it was a business. They bought the club. It was a begins with an L. Basically they borrowed, leveraged buyout or something like that. They didn't spend a penny to buy the club. They borrowed money from the banks using the club's assets as collateral. And then they had a hell of a lot of interest to pay out. And then the profits paid for the interest. I don't even know if they did pay the interest. I think they might be in more debt now. But all they did was just take dividends every year. So they've made themselves a hell of a lot of money. And people could say, well, you know, they did spend a lot of money on the club. They did. They did spend a huge amount of money on the club. But at the same time, they didn't spend it on the right things. They didn't spend it on infrastructure and improvement and trying to innovate. Instead, they just spent it on players. And the club stayed stuck in the 90s and just went downwards and downwards and downwards. But anyway, a lot of people will say the Glazers don't care about Manchester United. They don't. They care about the money of the club. They might enjoy going to the games. They might enjoy it. They might like the club. I don't know. But the point is, there was a huge amount of debt that is still there. And if their intentions were to make the club one of the most keep the club the most profitable and, you know, one of the most successful clubs in the world, and it was all about money and profit and blah, 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 blah. They've achieved that. Because the club, it's always been in the top 5. It's got such a huge following. The amount of supporters they have around the world, the amount of money that the club makes. That's what they wanted. That's what they've got. That's what they've got. Now, the club hasn't grown and it will slowly start falling behind. But ultimately, what the Glazers wanted, which was profit, they achieved. What the fans wanted, which is trophies, they didn't achieve. So if you bought a striker, when you buy Cristiano Ronaldo and he plays crap, the fans don't want it. But at the same time, if his shirt sales pay for his wages, then what? Why is that a problem? Why can't you have him at the club? No, you have to pay him. Play him, sorry. You have to play him. Because what's the point in having him at the club if you're not playing him? But to them, it's about money. Not about success. Not about trophies. Now, the more you win, the more money you make. But their objectives aren't the same. Because Rob and Ryan are still coming through the leagues, the objectives are the same. Once you're in the Premier League and your club is now swimming in money, you don't need to get promotion anymore. That's when, I don't want to say the true intentions, but that's when they might sell the club, make a huge amount of profit, and then the club might stay in the Premier League, might get relegated to the Championship. Who knows? But it will benefit the club in the long run. So I think people need to stop worrying about what the intentions are of the owners and their personal gain. Why does it bother you if what you want you're going to achieve at the same time? So sometimes I think followers have a bit of an issue with the person in charge when they shouldn't. There was such a long-winded and shit explanation of the Glazers, but it's really difficult to explain that situation of both wanting a different outcome, but you both achieve the same. You both achieve what you want by the leader achieving what they want, even though what they want isn't what you want. Fuck this. I've just completely ruined anything that, even if you half understood, I've probably just made it 100 times harder to understand. So I just completely butchered that. Anyway, last bit. I wanted to talk about, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge with Andrew Garfield, about Desmond Doss. What a movie. Insane movie, brilliant movie. There is a part of that, they bully him, they ridicule him, he gets nothing but abuse all movie, and he stands by his morals and what he believes in. And at the end, there is a certain part where they're told to go up the cliff and go and attack the Japanese again, and they say, we're not going up yet, we need to wait for Desmond to finish praying, because without him going up, we're not going up. Now, why would they not go up without him? Because they don't want to die, and they believe that with him there, he will save them if they get shot, like he did to the 80-something before. So again, they're not following him because he's the best soldier. They're not following him because he's got the most kills. They're not following him because he's guaranteeing them success, or he's the best tactician. It's none of that. Their objective is, we are in the army, but we do not want to die. That is their objective. Not win at all costs, because then they wouldn't be following him. This is, I do not want to die. Therefore, I am not going to run at those bullets until I have this angel next to me who is going to save me if I get hit. That is what I mean by objectives, and that is where it gets interesting with the whole leader-follower relationship. That is why the person who is in charge isn't necessarily the leader. So the person who might be in charge of all those men says, you all go over the top, and they're all like, we're not going till he goes. Who's the leader in that situation? The person in charge, or Desmond who sat there praying? Could be a private. He is. Desmond is the leader because people will follow him, not captain or whoever he is who says, right, let's go. He might go over the top, and everyone says, you carry on, we're waiting. This is why the person in charge needs to be clever and use sometimes the person who is the leader of the group. And if you become the leader of that individual who is the leader of the group, you automatically become the leader of the group. So sometimes you need to be very clever about who you are in charge of. Anyway, I have almost finished my research on this topic of leadership trait transferability from the military to project management, and I've got some really cool results, to be honest. Almost finished. Like I said, I'm probably going to talk about it in next session as well. See if I can get some maybe feedback, maybe get someone to, I might ask my supervisor if they want to be interviewed, talk about it. There's a few other people that I'm thinking about speaking to about a few other things, but I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying verbalizing what I'm thinking, and hope you've enjoyed it. I've waffled on for plenty long enough tonight, and I will see you again in a week, or you'll see me again in a week. And if you've got any questions, as always, please send them my way. If you know anyone that wants to or would be interested in thinking about leadership or thinking about the sociology, psychology, whatever you want to call it, philosophy of leadership, then send them my way, give them a listen, get them to send me some questions, comments, stuff for debate. I'm happy to talk to anyone as well. So if there's anyone who wants to come on and talk about their experiences with leadership, then jump on. And like I said, see you in a week. Hope you have a good week and stay cool.